All right. Welcome to Building Beast Brands Live. I'm Rob Genovese. I want to welcome you all for coming here. If you're watching this live, hit hashtag live in the comments. I appreciate that. And if you're watching it on replay, hit hashtag replay. Let me know that you're watching this later on. And if you pop any comments or questions anytime throughout this, I will come back later. I will answer the questions. I will respond to the comments. I want to know what's on your mind. And today what we're going to do is we're just going to take a little while to just talk about something that has been kind of gone unanswered, or unexplained, or untaught for many years in the graphic design industry. And if you're a graphic designer out there, I know you're going to relate to what I'm talking about. But first of all, if you're new and you haven't seen me before, my name is Rob Genovese. I have over 30 plus years as a graphic designer. I've worked in advertising, marketing, publishing. I've worked for sign and display companies. I've worked for brand companies. I have worked freelance, and I have designed everything from logos to websites to billboards to anything printed, you name it. Chances are I've designed it. And not that I know everything, so certainly that's not true. I definitely don't know everything, but there are some things that I do know and some things that I questioned over time that I thought to myself, why is this such an issue? And when I was freelancing, I never really could figure it out. The whole idea behind getting contract work from clients, most of the time that's done if you have a job. A lot of designers freelance on the side to make some extra money, and that's awesome. I did that. It's a great way to earn extra money. It's a great way to get some work that maybe you really like, as opposed to maybe you're working as a graphic designer on a job and you're not so wild about the work. But it pays the bills, right? Puts gas in the tank, puts a roof over your head, puts food in your mouth. But I want to talk about some of those freelancers who are at it full time. Freelance gig is your full-time gig. You're not doing it part-time. I knew these designers along the way. And back when I worked in the publishing world, I used to hire freelance graphic designers. When I worked for a sign and display company, I hired freelance graphic designers. And, being in the freelance world, having freelance graphic designers at my disposal was very valuable when we needed extra help, when we needed very specific help that maybe staff designers didn't have experience in. We'd bring somebody in with specific experience. And, if you're a graphic designer out there, why don't you put in the comments what your specialty is? I know designers who are excellent at hand lettering. Not one of my fortes. That was not something I was good at. I was good at advertising. I was good at making ads. I was good at really simple stuff. Not so great at the complex stuff. But I know there's designers out there who are excellent illustrators as well. So if you're a hand letterer, pop that in the comments. Perhaps you're one of those graphic designers who's really excellent at logos. Logos are your thing. You're a logo designer. You love logos. You research logos. You're on top of every logo change of every company around the world. And if you're one of those, hit logo designer in the comments. I've done my fair share of logos over time, and I still do those. They're a lot of fun, but they come along as a brand strategist. That kind of comes with the territory. That's something that I keep my hands in because it's something that I really want to make sure is, from a branding perspective, it's always part of that cohesive package, right? So as designers, we sometimes take on work where we're just taught what to do or told what to do. And so this is one of the points I want to make, because when I started my company, I didn't want to just be a freelance designer. And a lot of people assumed that's what I did. So they would go, oh, okay, you're a freelance designer. Oh, you're a graphic designer. Is that your full-time thing, your part-time thing? And I never wanted there to be any doubt. Not that there's anything wrong with freelance. For all you freelancers out there, I'm with you. I think it's a great thing. I think it's a way to make great extra money. I think it's a great way to make a living. But the problem that I always found when I talked to freelance designers over the years, when I had a job, I had that security of a corporate job, and I would be hiring freelance designers, and I would say to them, hey, how's it going? Do you keep busy? Because I know what I gave them kept them busy for maybe 1 or 2 days a week. Well, there's 3 other work days in a 5-day work week. So what were they busy doing on those other days, if anything at all? So I would ask them, I would say to them, hey, how's it going? Are you keeping busy? It'd be, so. Some of them, this note, I'm always looking for the next client. That's largely what I got. And I'd say, well, what's the biggest challenge you're facing? And they'd say, well, once this job is up over here, not the one that I hired them for, but maybe another one that kept it busy for months at a time. Sometimes freelance designers, they get, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months jobs. Sometimes they go a full year on a contract job. But once that's up, in their minds, they started freaking out like, oh boy, my contract is coming to an end. The project's almost up. I've got to find another contract. I've got to find another client. And why is that? Well, here's the thing. Like I said, when we went to hire freelance designers, we were looking to solve a specific problem. We needed a certain type of designer. If that was a package designer who was good at a certain type of packaging, we would go to that particular guy. If we needed somebody who was really fast at creating layouts, like in the publishing world, we needed somebody who was really fast, banging out layouts. Maybe they weren't so tight and clean, but we needed it done fast because you're on tight deadlines. We would hire a designer who was fast for their layout skills only. Now, what does that mean? Basically means, what is a freelancer? So I want to make a distinction between what a freelancer is and what a business owner is, because like I said, when I started my business, I didn't want to be perceived as a freelancer. And again, not that there's anything wrong with it. There's definitely nothing wrong with it. But as a business owner, it's a whole different mindset as to what you're really doing. And that's what I want to cover here today. So we start with the freelance designer. A freelance designer essentially is a hired gun. Now, look at this guy. So you've seen this guy in the old West. These were the gunslingers, right? These were the guys that were hired, literally the hired gun. What were they hired to do? These guys were hired for one thing and one thing only, right? He's got the tools right in his hand. You could see him there. He's got two, sometimes they just had one, but this guy's got two revolvers, one in each hand. What problem do you think he's solving? So somebody comes to him and says, hey, we got a real problem here, and we got this guy, and he's rolling into town. He's terrorizing the good citizens of our town. We need you to run him out. We need a good gunslinger. We need a guy like yourself to come in. And what's he hired to do? One thing: shoot, right? In the old West, it was shoot the bad guy, right? In marksmanship, it's shoot the target. You got one tool, you got one job, do it. And that's the way I look at a freelancer. And again, not a slam against freelancers, but that's the perception that the people hiring freelance designers have, because I was on both ends. And so hiring a freelance designer was like hiring a hired gun. You've got graphic design skills. We want you to design something, and here's what we want you to design. They would tell you what they wanted. I would tell you what we needed to see. So in the end, you're hired for your hands. And that's the whole issue. You see, when you're hired for your hands, competition is really high, because there are so many designers who are so good, some way better than me, which is why I kind of got out of that game of being a freelancer. So competitive, there's so many to choose from. It's a very saturated field. And so what does that mean? Lots of options, lots of competition drive the prices low. Designers typically are not paid particularly well. That's a whole nother topic. But what I want to say right now is, when you're hired as a designer, essentially what we're talking about here is you are hired, again, for your hands. But what's the problem with that? And this is how I always pictured it. And this is how I kind of felt sometimes, when we were hiring designers, what were we actually doing, right? This is what we were doing. We were essentially telling them what to do. It was kind of like barking orders. And I remember there was this one time I was working for this company, and I wasn't freelancing, but it just reminds me of this kind of story, this kind of scenario, where the owner of the agency I was working for, as I was sitting at my desk, right, with my computer set up, I got my chair, and I got my mouse, and I got the keyboard and I'm working it and I got the brief laid out in front of me. And this guy would pull his chair up behind me. Now, he was a nice guy. He had great ideas, but here's the problem. And this is him right here. He would pull his chair behind me, almost like a director's chair. If he had a director's chair, the director's chairs, they sit up really high and they can kind of look down on the set. Well, that's kind of the way I felt. He would sit behind me, look over my shoulder at the screen, and he would say, okay, now just move that box over a little bit. No, the other way. Okay, move it up. One more click. Okay, just one more click. Okay, one more click. Good, there. Now take that type. And he would literally tell me what to do. He would guide my hands. I felt like he was the puppet master, right? And he was just guiding my hands. I felt like a marionette. And that's not a place you want to be. I know when he was behind me doing that, I felt like, what am I doing here? What is my worth if this guy is just telling me what to do? I felt like getting out of the seat and saying, here, you do it. I mean, you've got the ideas. You're a better designer than me, I guess. So why don't you do it? And if you're a graphic designer out there, if you've ever been in this scenario, pop that in the comments. Just let me know that I wasn't alone in that, where you feel like this guy right here, like you feel like, you're being told what to do all the time. Like there's somebody with a megaphone just barking orders at you, and that's not something that anybody, I think, really wants to have, done to them. And as a designer, it's just a bad feeling. But that's kind of how it goes, right? So there's this feeling of you're not really hired for what you can, for what your ideas are, right? You're not hired for your thoughts. You're hired for your hands. And there's the distinction right there. Like the hired gun hired for his guns. You're a hired gun hired for your mouse or for your hands or for moving things around the screen. And that's an unfortunate truth out there, which is another reason why, like I said, a lot of freelance designers are finding it's troublesome to get along with clients. In other words, to steer clients, because as a designer, I know you must feel this way. You have ideas and you're going to solve the graphic design challenge. They put forth this visual problem, right? And you're going to solve it. So you have ideas of what the design should look like. Guess who else has ideas? Yeah, the client. They got so many ideas, they're going to tell you what they want to see. Now, why is that? Why don't they just say, hey, you're the designer. Will you tell us what we're supposed to see? We trust you. I mean, go to town. Tell us what the solution is. In fact, show us maybe just 2 solutions, but I'm sure they'll both be right on the money, and we'll just choose one and we'll run with it. Has that ever happened to you as a designer, right? Probably not often, if at all. What happens is the client just sees you as a way to get done what they see in their mind. They don't see you as an expert at what you do because they don't know what a graphic designer is supposed to do. They don't know that we're visual problem solvers. They don't know that we are communication experts, that we communicate through visuals. It's not like graphic design is not like fine art. Fine art, you stand there, you take it in, you look at it from different angles, you stare at it, you'll stand there for 45 minutes and it will come to you as to what your mind's interpretation of this piece is and how it hits you. And for everybody, it could be different. It's totally subjective. And guess what? Design is subjective to the clients. That's why they have their own ideas. What they don't know is the graphic design is the communication arts, that you use visuals, you use color, typography, imagery, all used together in order to communicate an idea. And you're the expert at it. They don't know that's what you're really doing, so they tell you what they want to see based on what they like. And like never factors in, ever, right? Give me an amen in the comments, because that's the truth. Like doesn't factor in. It doesn't matter what they like. Their opinion about the design doesn't matter because you're solving a problem. There's the difference right there. You're actually solving a problem. And so unlike a freelancer, and look, if you're a freelance graphic designer, I'm not putting you down and saying you're no good or you can't make money or you can't get clients. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we're looking for a mindset shift. You see, I was a freelance designer. I am a graphic designer, but I run a branding and design company. And that's different when you talk about the business owner mindset, because that's the difference of solving a problem. So it's coming from solving a problem first. And when a client hires a company, a business owner, they hire a business, they expect that you're going to solve a challenge of theirs. Now, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of clients that come to me the same way they come to you. Hey, I need a website. Hey, I need a logo. Hey, I need a brand. Here's my existing logo. What do you think? It's pretty good, huh? It's a pretty good brand. Maybe it just needs a freshen up. They all come the same way, because here's the thing. They know they got a problem, but it's always a business problem. They're not coming to you saying, I've got a business problem and I know graphic design will solve it. And I'm sure that it's the logo. So will you give me a new logo that can solve this bit? They don't know that. They don't make that connection. So what I want to talk about is a much different way of looking at it. And so when you think about the difference between a freelancer and graphic designer, what we're really talking about here is a way of approaching a problem from a problem solver mentality that basically says, okay, I understand you say you want a website. I understand you say you want a logo, or you think you need one. And by the way, that's one of my first questions. If you ever get a call from a potential client and they say, hey, I need a logo, right? Can you do that? And in your head, you're a designer. So you're going, yeah, of course I can do that. That's what I do, right? So you say yes. But your first question should be is, well, I definitely do that. But let me ask you a question. Why do you think you need a new logo? Let them answer that one. That's my first question every time I get that phone call, no matter what kind of design it is. It's a matter of getting to the problem. It's drilling down, because I'm going to tell you something. Most of the time I ask that question, there's a silence on the other end of the phone, because they've never been asked that before. They think by calling a designer, they're going to get a logo. What they don't think is, hey, this person's going to solve my business challenge. So you ask them, why do you think you need a logo? Why do you think you need a new website? And listen to what they say. Listen to the reason. It'd probably surprise you if you've never asked this question before, but I get answers like, well, I need a new logo because, well, I had this one designed, when I first started the business 9 years ago. And, I kind of just did it on my own, or, I had my nephew do it, or, I saw this cool picture online and I thought that would be cool. And so, but I'm not so sure that it's the right one. So 9 years later, they're not sure if it's the right one. Well, that's probably right. It's probably not the right one, because a logo should be done with branding in mind. It should be done with strategy in mind, right? It's not just about making a pretty picture. But when they say things like that, I say, okay, so let me ask you a question. That I know you've had this, and maybe you didn't have a professional design this logo, but what kind of challenge in your business are you looking to solve with a new logo? And they'll go, you see their eyes get wide. If you're on a Zoom or you're in front of them in person, you see their eyes get wide, and they don't know what to say. Why? Again, they've never been asked the question, and they don't really know why they think that a logo is the answer, that a website's the answer, that a new design is the answer. But that's not necessarily the case. In fact, it's rarely ever the case, because they don't know. If they knew the problem, they wouldn't come to you like they came to you. And so what you got to do is you got to think like a business owner, a problem solver. Yes, you are a designer, but you want to think, solve the challenge first. I mean, here's why that's so critical. It's critical on two fronts. Number one, have you ever had, as a designer, a client who just didn't seem to be happy with whatever design you did? Raise your hand. I mean, I can't see you, but raise your hand. Maybe you gave them a couple of designs, or 10, or 23, or 57 designs. If I give them enough designs, they're going to pick one. Does that ever work? No, it never, ever works. Why? It just adds more confusion in their mind. See, design is subjective. They're looking at what's going to resonate with them, or, what's going to hit them the right way. Or have you ever heard this? Yeah, I'll know it when I see it. Give me 10 more designs and I'm sure one of them will be in there. Never gonna happen, right? So you have to start with the problem. Here's the thing most designers are never taught in school. Design only solves a problem if it was strategized to do so. What does that mean? It means, why do they need the design? Identify the business challenge. Okay, you need a logo because you want to stand out, right? Now it's a branding issue. Well, what's unique about them? Then you got to go into brand strategy, right? If it's a website, I need a new website. Why do you need a new website? Well, it hasn't been updated in 10 years, or built it 10 years ago, never touched it. Well, they're right. They need a new one, right? But what business challenge are you looking to solve? Well, we want some conversion. Oh, now a different story, right? Now we're talking about a different story. Saying, okay, you want conversion. And yeah, and we want to make sure we stand out. Again, goes back to branding. Look at all the competition. Do they blend in? Look at the copy. Cover the imagery, cover the logo, cover the name of the company. Look at the copy. Does it sound like all the others? It's a branding issue. That's a brand copy issue, a brand voice issue. And for me, a lot of times it comes back to branding, because branding is the first place you start. Strategy is the first place you start. Strategizing how to separate the client from the competition and then solve a business challenge. Maybe it's converting clients, creating awareness, whatever it is. And when you set out that strategy, then any design you do after that that executes on the strategy is the right design. You see, when the design answers the strategy's question, they never change it. And so that's one of the reasons I became a brand strategist, but that's not the topic for today. If you want to check out the video on my channel, Unleash My Beast Brand, if you're watching on Facebook, head on over to YouTube. Unleash My Beast Brand is the channel, and I have a video in there, how I became a brand strategist. My story is there. And if you're a designer, it makes a whole lot of sense. It's the reason why I went from struggling designer to thriving business owner, thriving brand strategist today. And I still get to do the design when I want. So I get the best of both worlds. I make multiples of what I used to make as just a designer. So there's more money in it too. But one of the things that I want to really emphasize in this particular session is this. As a freelance designer, I never got the respect of the client because they just looked at me like a pair of hands. And that respect was important to me. I wanted them to know that I had ideas and I had, solutions to the problem, but they don't take it that way because they're conditioned to just hire the hands. But when you think as a business owner, now look, it doesn't take much more to call yourself a business owner versus a freelancer. It's really more of a mindset than anything else, right? So you could just not call yourself a freelancer anymore. In fact, I highly recommend not calling yourself a freelancer. And again, I'm going to tick a lot of people off with this, but I don't think that any freelance designer should ever call themselves a freelance designer. It automatically categorizes you as a hired gun. No, instead saying, I have a design company and our design company solves business challenges using design. Something along those lines. Because then what you're doing is you're setting up the client, you're setting up their mindset to go, oh, wait a minute. These guys can actually help with the problem. See, as a designer, you're hired to be an accessory to the solution that they've already come up with, as opposed to being the person who solves the problem using design. Does that make sense? So freelance designer, hired gun. Business owner is hired, is a problem solver. And that's the big difference here. When we look at, the way business owners work, they put out a problem. The client puts out a problem. And the company says, okay, we can approach this from a couple of different ways. We've got some ideas here. Let us show you some of the thoughts, preliminary thoughts about this, but let me ask you some questions first. And they'll write down a bunch of answers. They'll maybe doodle at the same time. If you've got a team, creative directors will typically start doodling while the lead for the team will typically ask the questions, the business-ended questions, and find out, okay, here are the problems. Here are some potential solutions. They're writing it down. They're strategizing on the spot. And that's part of what it takes. You're strategizing on the spot as to what's going to solve this challenge. Then when you got as much of the information as you need, then you can really hone in on the solution and provide that to them. And that's the whole idea. That's the difference. Okay. The difference is mindset, but the difference is also process and approach, because you want to be able to take the client from what their challenge is to what the solution is using design. So this is just really an overview. I just want to get you thinking about it. If this makes any sense, definitely pop some questions in there and I'll answer them later. And if you want to see any future videos, I got uploads coming out every Tuesday and Friday on my YouTube channel, Unleash My Beast Brand. And I'm addressing many issues that graphic designers face in making more money, because that was one thing I wanted to do. When I started the company, I was able to get business fairly quickly. I started out as a website and design company, and I was doing logos and I was making websites and doing other design work, but I wasn't making enough money. You see, there's something about when you're a freelancer, you get an hourly rate, whether it's $35, $55, $85, $105 an hour, you're still an hourly wage earner. That's a problem, because your ability to make money is directly tied to the amount of hours you put in. So this is a side topic, but billing by the hour is not a good idea. You want to go value-based pricing, project-based pricing, learn about that, look that up, and that will give you a better idea of how you can make more money doing the same work. And by the way, I've had people think this: well, Rob, you're going to charge more just by calling yourself a business owner? No. A mentor of mine said a long time ago, when you solve a bigger problem, you'll make more money. Businesses will happily pay more money to get a fast solution to their problem. Let that sink in for a second. So that's why when you're solving that challenge, you can charge more money. So when I went from designer to problem solver to strategic thinker to strategist, followed up with design, I almost immediately doubled the amount of money I was making, sometimes tripled it, based on the same work. Now, again, I wasn't charging more. It's just that I was charging so much less before, because it was always based on price. It was, how cheap can I get this design work? Again, going back to how competitive the graphic design industry is. Drives prices down when there is so much competition, and clients could literally hire, they can go online and find thousands and thousands. They can go to Fiverr, they can go to Upwork and find thousands of designers they can choose from, right? Which drives the price down. So I wasn't making enough money like most designers. If you really broke down your hourly rate on every minute you spent thinking about the client's work, not just when you're actually doing it, you'll discover that you're making considerably less than you think. But when you solve that problem, like I said, well, then you can charge an appropriate amount, because you're giving a big return for the client. You're solving a big problem, and it's worth a lot of money to them, because they're going to make a lot of money once you solve it. That's the main idea. It's not that you're raising prices willy-nilly just because you're calling yourself a business owner. It's that you are being forced down by market price because of the competitive nature of the industry and the ability for the client to hire just about anybody. Okay, that's the difference. So again, pop some comments, pop some questions below. I want to hear them. And that's it for today. I want to thank you for stopping by. And again, I want you to go over to my YouTube channel if you're not there now. If you're on Facebook or you're watching this somewhere else, head on over to YouTube, Unleash My Beast Brand, hit the subscribe button. I got great videos coming out every Tuesday and Friday on there to help you if you're a designer, to make more money, to think more strategically. And also, along the way, you're building your brand. If you don't know a lot about building a brand, I'm teaching you how to build a brand as well. So it's a two-pronged approach on that channel. We're solving two problems. We're going to help you make more money and build a brand, which is a long-term strategy towards making even more money, towards being able to sell a business someday, towards the number one thing that everybody wants, and that's attracting clients to you. Everybody wants to attract clients. Nobody wants to sell them. So building a brand will help you do that. So head on over, click that subscribe button, and I will be having videos coming out, like I said, twice a week. I'll be doing lives periodically. And, please tell me again what you want to see in future videos. I look forward to helping you out. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a great day.